Hi students, welcome to the Byju's Hindu News Analysis for 18th of August 2018. So let's get started. So let's look into the first article. So the first article says Kung Fu comes to Kolkata's Durga Puja. So what we will be discussing here is in detail about the Durga Puja diplomacy. So when we look into the article, what it clearly says is on the context, it says that there were certain Chinese consulate who are ready to actually fly the martial artists to come down to Kolkata, and then these martial arts from China are actually coming down to perform in this Durga Puja. So over years what we have realized is that Durga Puja is one festival which is about rituousness winning over the evil. So it is about spreading the love, it is about spreading the care, it is about destruction of the evil by the good. So what here we are actually doing is that here this Durga Puja is also evolving the relationship between two countries. So all the negativity that was there between two countries will be completely removed, and this is acting as one of the platforms in order to bridge the divide between all the countries and in order to remove the negativity. So what is Durga Puja diplomacy? It is all those consulates which are located in Kolkata participating in this Durga Puja, and some of the countries taking the initiative where the people from their native country will also be part of this Durga Puja, and they will be performing in Durga Puja, and that is called as Durga Puja diplomacy. So what here is happening in this particular case is that there are certain Chinese consulates who will be collaborating in actually constructing the canopy where the idol of the goddess will be housed, and it will also be flying in over 2 dozen of Chinese artists to put up the cultural performances. So what are they doing in this particular case? What they'll be actually doing is they'll be performing on certain Chinese songs, and they'll be performing the lion dances, acrobatics as well as martial arts at the Pandal from October 15 to 17 during the puja days. So what is the most important point in this particular case is that there were also certain puja organizers, that is those people who are conducting this Durga Puja. These people were also taken to the Yunnan province, and then they were asked to look into how exactly they are constructing their native festivals, and they were asked to look into extract maximum importance, and the same people who went to Yunnan province are familiarizing with those native local artist traditions, and they'll be encapsulating the same thing in the Durga Puja. So this is one of the most important things in order to understand how cultural ties would be able to bridge two important countries and able to much understand the importance of culture. So what exactly is the significance? So when we look into the significance, what we will realize is this will actually draw a number of Chinese people to come down to India, and this will also promote the cultural ties between the eastern part of India as well as the China. And the other important things that we need to understand that this will help the people to people contacts, and this will also indirectly help the cultural tourism. So because the Durga Puja is actually one of those important festivals, and because the Chinese are also flying here and there is exchange, that is there are people who are going to Yunnan province, so there would be people to people contacts, and this people to people contact will have certain exchanges, and these exchanges will indirectly promote the tourism sector. And the most important point is what we will have is a development of the educational sector. What this will help is it will encourage people to study more about each other's cultures, and when there is more about studying about each other's culture, this will obviously help in educating each other as how the culture has evolved over a period of time and how we need to respect each other's culture. So this becomes the significant aspect with respect to the Durga Puja diplomacy. And one of the important other things that we will also have to understand is about the pilgrimage diplomacy. This pilgrimage diplomacy is also called as Dargah diplomacy. So what happens in this case is, let's say for example India and Pakistan do not have that good of relationship. So what we have is we have some of the national leaders who actually move from one country to another. Let's say for example Advani ji did visit Pakistan, he went to number of temples, and there was Pervez Musharraf who actually came down to India, he visited a number of dargahs. So what we are doing in this case is one person from the native country will actually visit an enemy country, or where the country does not have a good relationship, basically to make sure that there is political discussions happening, so that there is not complete disconnect between these two countries. On one side, what we are doing is we are using the gods, we are using the dargahs, we are using the temples to basically make sure that there is infuse of thoughts. At the same time, we are also making sure that the political discussions happen, so that there is no complete disconnect. So what are the terms that we learned today? One is the Durga Puja diplomacy, the other one is the pilgrimage diplomacy, or what is called as Dargah diplomacy. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article says aerodrome would hit Chilka's biodiversity. So where exactly is this Chilka located? It is located in Odisha. And one of the other important things that we will also have to remember is about the Nalbana Island. So where exactly is Nalbana Island? It is in Chilka Lake, and what we also need to know is these are both there in Odisha. So this will become an important point from the prelims perspective. So what exactly is the context? So when we look into the context, what it says is that the Airport Authority of India is actually planning to come up with one of the water aerodromes, and this water aerodromes will be in Chilka Lake, where they're actually planning to start off with the amphibious aircraft operations within this Chilka region. So what exactly is the problem right now? So when we look into what exactly the agenda, or the why exactly they're planning to come up with this particular protocol or this implementation, is basically to improve the tourism. So major break as to why this is done is in order to improvise the tourism is why it is being done. So they want to make this a commercial hub, and once it is developed as a commercial hub, this will obviously lead to increase in the tourism. So what are the other reasons with respect to the tourism? Once what happens is, once we are actually making this an agenda, what we are indirectly doing is we are developing the infrastructure. So this will give boost to the infrastructure. Once we have the infrastructure, and once it becomes a commercial hub promoting tourism, what this will indirectly drive is it will provide the employment opportunities to all the youth who are actually there in and around this particular region. So apart from the employment, we do have the development of the infrastructure, and with development infrastructure, what we have is the stability in the economy. So we know for the fact that there are certain regions in and around this region which are not that economically good. So what we are doing is, one is we are making this region a commercial hub, that is tourism will be developed, and as a result the infrastructural growth will happen, and because there is infrastructural growth, this will lead to increase in the employment provisions and economic stability. So this is what this whole argument as to why there is a provision of aerodrome establishment that they are planning to come up with. Apart from this, what is being said is that this project has certain environmental issues. So what exactly are those environmental issues? Let's say for example, this is actually a Ramsar site. So this is one of the wetlands of international importance under the Ramsar Convention. So because this is one of the most important international conventions, and this has been given a tag of Ramsar site, what we need to make sure is we need to protect this particular segment. Why? Simply because this is the second home to all the migratory birds that are coming up to this Chilka region. So Chilka region is one place where all the migratory birds that actually come down here, they've made this place as a second home, and they're investing a lot of time here, they're breeding here, and when this happens, then when there is development that happens, what it will lead is the destruction or the shortcoming for this migratory species. And also what can be said is, because there is this aerodrome, there is development of this amphibious aeroplane. So what can happen is, there is this man and bird conflict that can result in, let's say for example, there is an aeroplane that is coming up and there is a bird that is coming up, then there is clash between these two. When there is clash in these two, there can be safety of passengers which can be jeopardized. At the same time, there is threat to these birds that are flying in. So this is the major problem. So one of the major problems as to why this has to be taken into picture is because of the migratory birds. So because it will be a threat to the migratory birds, this project should be stopped, is what the environmental issue is. Apart from this, there is one of the important things. What is currently happening is, we know for the fact that this Chilka Lake has a tourism hub, and already we know that there are certain boats which are actually moving within this particular area. So because it is promoting tourism, and there is ship movement that is happening, it's already creating a lot of noise within this particular region. So let's say in case there is the addition of this aerodrome, this will further penetrate this idea, right? And what can also happen is already these boats that are there have actually taken a toll on the important Irrawaddy dolphins. So what is happening is there are certain dolphins and these are already in the critical zone and they are already marked as endangered, and when there is addition of this aerodrome, what will happen is you have the aircrafts that are flying in, there is boats already that is rushing in across the lake, and these are already a threat to the dolphins, and in case there is aerodrome presence here, this will lead to further threat. What exactly happens? There is already pollution, there is noise pollution that is happening because of the ships, and these aerodromes that are currently there, in case they are landing or when they are taking off, they'll obviously have to land on the water, and when they are landing on the water, it creates a vibrations, and when there is vibrations within this region, this can be a threat to the dolphins which are already in the endangered state. That is what we need to understand. At the same time, there are a lot many of species. Let's say for example, there are around 375 species of about marine fish, and there are number of other things like say for example the species of the birds or the exotic marine species. All these species may be under danger because of the vibrations that have been felt by the seaplane during the takeoff as well as on the landing. Apart from this, this region is known for fishing, so there are number of people who are actually relying on fishing. So there are number of people who make this as a livelihood means. So in case there happens to be this aerodrome, there can be a threat to their lives as well. Their economic stability will be disturbed, so the fishing as a whole will be disturbed, so that also needs to be taken into picture. At the same time, what we also need to look is there was one of the Nobel laureates, and the Nobel laureate was Prafulla. So Prafulla has also said that he is against this project because it leads to a large scale destruction of the biodiversity within this region. And also one of the most important factors that we need to consider is there conduction of any scientific study? Not exactly. So because there is no scientific study that is also conducted, what is happening here is the government is not conducted any scientific study, and they do not know what exactly would be the repercussions or the implications because of this. And when there is no implications fact or the statistics, why do you have to go about with this project is what the environmental concerns are. So these are some of the things that we will have to consider with respect to this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article is with respect to the Mullaperiyar Dam. So let's try and understand everything with respect to this particular project, and then we will come back to this article. So what exactly we will have to understand in this article is this Mullaperiyar Dam is also called as Mullai Periyar Dam. So this has one of the dams which is actually located in this region of Idukki. So there is a place called as Idukki in Kerala. So this dam is actually located across the Periyar river where it actually flows, and this is in the district of Idukki district of Kerala. So what we need to understand is this Mullaperiyar is actually a confluence of two words. One is there is another river called as Mullayar. So there is two rivers, one is Mullayar, the other one is the Periyar. So these two rivers actually come up and join here, and that is why it is called as Mullaperiyar. So what exactly is this whole project all about? So one of the basic things that we need to understand is this dam is there in Kerala, but this is being operated by Tamil Nadu. How is that this can happen is what the whole project or this dam is all about. So for which we will have to head back to history. So what exactly happened in 1800s was this region, right, this particular region of Madurai, Theni, Dindigul, Shivaganga, this was a part of Madras constituency. So what exactly happened in those days was, even now this region is actually a airy region, that is it is completely dry, it falls in the drier regions, so they do not have much of water for these areas. So in the year 1866 there was this agreement that the British actually entered. So you had the princely state of Travancore, and then you had the British ruled Madras presidency. So they entered into an agreement that all the water that is coming up in this region of Periyar, that is the water that is coming from the Periyar region, will be put up in this particular dam, and this water will be diverted towards these arid regions. So this Periyar dam which is constructed in Kerala will be given the permission to Tamil Nadu government, where the Tamil Nadu government will take control of that dam which is in Kerala. So this was the agreement that was entered back with Travancore as well as Madras presidency. And what exactly happened over a period of time was in 1970 this agreement was finally entered. So this was a pre-independence treaty, but after independence we again need to make sure that there is an agreement. So in 1970 there was an agreement that was entered between Kerala as well as Tamil Nadu. So what they entered into an agreement was that Tamil Nadu will now have the complete control of this dam, that is the Mullaperiyar dam, and then they would be able to make use of the water that is coming in for all their arid regions of Dindigal, Theni, Madurai, Shivganga, Ramnathpuram, but diverting the water that is there in Mullaperiyar dam towards and pushing it towards the Vaigai dam, and then they'll make sure that the water is used for irrigation, conduction of electricity, and at the same time for drinking purposes. This was the basic background as to what exactly is this dam all about. And another important point is, why is that Kerala is actually giving this dam? One is they have entered into an agreement. At the same time, what the Tamil Nadu government will be doing is they'll be providing them certain amount of rent. As per the agreement, they'll be providing rent, and that is why Tamil Nadu will have the control over the dam, the control over the land. They'll have control over the water to provide irrigation, drinking water facilities, and generation of hydroelectricity, for which they'll be paying rent to the Kerala government. So this is the overall idea. But what exactly is the problem right now? So when we look into the problem, what exactly is the arguments from the Kerala government side? So we will have to understand what exactly are the arguments from the Kerala side. What it says is that this dam was constructed in 1866, so it's been more than 100 years. So because it is more than 100 years, there is threat to the security of this dam. That is, the safety of the dam is not intact. So the point it raises is, because it has been more than 100 years, what we will have to look at it is the safety of the dam. And there have been number of places in and around Idiki which is actually seismic zone. That is, there is actually a lot of earthquake that are striking. So what we need to make sure is that there is safety which we will have to take care. We are not opposing the move of Tamil Nadu taking the water, but what we want to make sure is, once you make sure that there is a new construction of the dam, or all the leaks that are happening within this region, or there is a lot of cracks that have been developed with time, so these leaks and cracks that have developed, you make sure that they are stronger or intact, or you build up a new dam and you can again do it. I mean, you can again divert the water. We are not against the construction of the new dam as well. We will only take care of the expenses that are there with respect to the dam. Only thing that we are worried about here is, this is an area, that is the Idukki region, and in and around this region is a seismic zone. In case there is a earthquake that strikes, then there will be a large scale destruction with respect to people as well as to the economy, and that is why we are scared. So kindly make sure that all the leaks and cracks that are there in the dam, you address this dam and make sure that there is construction, or you rework on it, and then you possibly divert it. The water that you are going through this particular region is of no use to Kerala, because all that the water was going is, it was going to the Arabian Sea, so it was of not much use. But instead you are making use of it. Make use of it. Only thing that we are saying is, make sure that you have a construction. And there was one of the report that was also raised up, and that was in the year 2009. There was a survey that was done, and the IIT Roorkee also came up with one of these reports, which said that in case there is a possible earthquake, and if it is measured in the magnitude of more than 6.5 Richter scale, this can strike a havoc within this region. So when there is a possible earthquake, what can possibly happen is, this can result into a catastrophe. This can result into a man-made disaster. Why? Because this can possibly reach to a downward region, and when it goes through the downward region, that is all those people living in the downstream area, it can pose a threat to their life and their property. So what it had also said is that this can also make sure that almost 3 million people within the vicinity of the region can actually have problem. So it will be a lot of problems to the people as well as their economic property. So time and again, that is why Kerala has said that this construction of water that is there within this region, or whatever water holding capacity, have to be reduced. So what Kerala actually says is that currently Tamil Nadu government has actually lifted the water capacity to about 142 feet. This should not be done. Why? Because there has been crack that has been developed. So whatever is there, it has to be restricted to about 136 feet. If there is more increase of water and storage within this domain, what it can result is, there will be a lot of impact on the dam, and the dam would not be able to take, is what the Kerala government stand is. At At the same time, what Tamil Nadu government also has its own share of arguments and counter arguments. For every argument that it has said, the Tamil Nadu government has actually come up with a counter argument. We all know that the Central Water Commission does look into the dam issues. So what the Central Water Commission has actually done is, the Tamil Nadu government was actually asked to actually lower this particular water level in this dam from 152 to actually 136. So Tamil Nadu government actually reduced it, and then with time it actually made sure that there were certain corrections that were made with respect to the dam, and all the leakage and cracks that were there were actually strengthened and reworked upon. So what Tamil Nadu government says is, yes, we do understand that there is a flight that you guys are actually saying. So what we are doing is, we have already constructed enough, we have taken precautionary measures, we have also strengthened the dam. So you cannot say that we are not looking into it. We have already done whatever needs to be done from the Tamil Nadu government side. And at the same time, it further says, see, in case we are actually planning to construct a new dam, what will happen is, the water that we are currently diverting to agriculture will be under loss. So in case we actually make sure that this dam is actually collapsed and we actually go about constructing a new dam, then all the water that we are providing to Madurai, the Theni, the Ramganga and so on, what will happen is, it will be a lot of losses to the agriculture. What it says is, because of the reduction in the height of the dam that had happened earlier, let's say for example in 1980 and 2005, there was certain reduction of water with respect to what is there in the dam. During that period, there was a whopping 40,000 crore loss to the economy of the Tamil Nadu. So what it has said is, in case we actually reduce the water within this domains or within the dammed region, what will happen is, we will face a large scale problem with respect to the agriculture, and this will impact our economy as a whole. So we are not going to reduce this. So what it has further said is, yes, we understand that Idukki is in seismic zone, but this is not going to impact the Idukki dam, that is the Mulla Periyar dam. There were other regions which can also be impacted, but this dam will not be impacted in case there is a seismic zone or the earthquake that strikes, is what the Tamil Nadu's argument says. Then there was a particular controversy. So what exactly was the controversy? So in 2006, both the cases, that is the Tamil Nadu and Kerala, actually go up to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court actually came up with one of the verdict. The Supreme Court actually allowed Tamil Nadu to raise the water up to 142 feet. So we know that for the fact that the overall strength or the overall level that is there within the total height of the dam is about 176 feet, but it let Tamil Nadu to have it up to 142 feet, while the permissible one is about 152 feet. So the total height of the dam is 176, and Tamil Nadu was asked to save water up to 142 feet. But what Kerala did was, Kerala came up with one of the important legislative acts. So the Kerala came up with Kerala Irrigation and Water Conservation Act of 2006. So during this act, what it said was that you cannot actually increase it to 142 feet, but instead you should be actually reducing it to 136 feet. So it came up with a legislative act, and what Tamil Nadu did was, it went about to the Supreme Court immediately once again. So the Supreme Court in 2006 came up with the verdict that Tamil Nadu would be able to raise water up to 142 feet. But then they came up with another law, and that was the Kerala law. The Kerala law said that Tamil Nadu will not be able to raise water, it has to restrict itself to 136 feet. So what Tamil Nadu did now was, it challenged this Kerala's dam height order in Supreme Court. So it goes up to the Supreme Court, and finally in the year 2014, what the Supreme Court did was, whatever the Kerala Act did was, it was unconstitutional, so it is completely void. So this is an interstate dispute. When it is an interstate dispute, how can you unilaterally decide? So whatever Kerala government act came up, the Supreme Court struck down this, and it said it is unconstitutional, and that is why Supreme Court has actually appointed one of the supervisory committees. So the supervisory committees was actually appointed by the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court appointed committee actually looks into this particular issue right now. So this Supreme appointed committee will actually inspect the dam periodically, once before the monsoon and after the monsoon, and keep a close eye on what exactly this overall condition of the dam safety is, and it will provide recommended measures that needs to be taken necessarily. And at the same time, the committee shall be taking up all the important steps and can issue directives to both the state governments, that is Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and to make sure that all the steps that it takes are actually implemented by the state governments of Tamil Tamil Nadu and Kerala. But this is the overall thing, and currently Supreme Court is actually looking into this. But what exactly is the article link now? So it says Tamil Nadu refuses to reduce the Mulla Periyar level. So what Tamil Nadu actually says is, in case we actually go about releasing the water, or in case we actually reduce the water holding capacity, what will happen is we will have to obviously open the gates with time, and when we open the gates with time, the Kerala is already having a lot of issues with respect to the flood, and we do open the gates of the dam, this would worsen the Kerala's flood problems, is what the Tamil Nadu officials have actually said. So this is all we will have to understand from this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article says what Kerala flood. So what is it that we will have to understand? We will understand everything as to why Kerala is actually going through this devastating floods that happened way back in 1924, and after 1924 this is for the first time that Kerala is seeing, after so many years, a large scale floods that have been reported in this region. So what we will have to understand is the background. So when we look into the background, 12 out of the 14 districts in the state are on high alert, with central and the northern districts completely affected, and particularly the districts of the Idukki as well as Wayanad have had a large scale casualties due to multiple landslides, and the same time a total number of 37 out of the 42 dams and reservoirs have been opened to drain out excess water from the catchment areas. Shutters of many dams like the Chetrutani, or the one of the largest arch dams of the continent, was opened. That is, all the 5 gates were open for the first time since 26 years, releasing lakhs and lakhs of liters into Periyar, which continues to remain swollen. So what exactly is the overall idea? Why exactly is 2018 floods are most extreme and most worst of the floods that is seen in Kerala? Why is the state has actually received 37.5% excess rainfall from June till date. So the North Kerala usually receives heavy rainfall during the southwest monsoon, but the South Kerala gets rainfall during the northeast monsoon. This year most parts including the South Kerala has actually received a lot of water, and that is rainfall which is due to heavy rainfall from June till date. And apart from this, 58 dams managed by KSEB and 22 managed by Water Resources Department is in full capacity. The gates of all these dams have been opened to discharge excess water. Another important point which we have earlier discussed as well, Idukki Dam, which is Asia's largest arch dam, has been releasing water at the rate of 10 to 15 lakh liters per second for the last 3 days. While Kerala received excess rainfall in 2013 too, life was not hit because dams were not full at this time of the year. While in 2013 excess rainfall was 37% for entire 4-month monsoon period, this year it has crossed that mark in just 2.5 months. So that's why there is lot of panic and problems with respect to the Kerala. So what exactly are the man-made causes? Apart from the natural causes, what exactly are the man-made causes? So when we look into what exactly are the man-made causes, what it says is experts believe in injudicious use of land is responsible for making some regions of the state more prone to floods and landslides. A lot of unauthorized encroachments have taken place in the forest areas. So those areas which are not supposed to be encroached have been encroached in order to make sure that there is tourism that is there. So all these areas which are not supposed to be touched have also been touched, and that is one of the things as to why there is a large scale flood. Incursions into the catchment areas of the rivers that have dried up, and continuous mountainous areas have rendered settlements in their vicinity vulnerable to the vagaries of the nature. At the same time, Kerala is yet to implement the recommendations of the Gadgil Committee on Conservation of the Western Ghats, which has submitted in August 2011. Many political parties had even protested against the report on the grounds that it was excessively environment friendly and not in tune with the ground reality. So because they were not able to implement the Gadgil Committee report, which had actually recommended that there are certain zones and these zones should not be parking places for the development. So you cannot actually go about with this, but in development in these areas areas because these are economically sensitive zones. In spite of the Gadgil committee actually recommending these things, the Kerala government went about their particular developmental model, and that is also being factored. Apart from this, there is large scale deforestation that has happened, so this deforestation is also a cause of floods. And then adding to this is the climate change ooze, which has actually made this flood a devastating one. So these are some of the reasons as to why there is a lot of floods that have been reported within the region of Kerala. So what exactly is the issues? So when we look into the issues, what we will have to realize is that the state government is facing a number of risks and challenges, and this has been with respect to how exactly we would be able to safeguard the people, how do we save their lives. So there are number of regions in Kerala which are in far-flung districts, and these districts need to be provided with food, the manpower, the money, and all these things are not there. So the state government have to provide the food, the water, and as well as make sure that these people are actually safe in the regions that have been flooded with water. So what exactly are the measures that needs to be taken? So the measures that we will have to take right now is there have been number of efforts that have been pumping in from the private sector, the government sector, and all these people have to coordinate amongst themselves to assist the flood affected people. At the same time, the disaster management units in other states too should assist. Let's say for example there are other regions like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, all these regions are the neighboring regions. What these people should also do is they should send in their people or the disaster response team to make sure that they get a feel of how exactly things have been worked out or coordinated, so they get an in-hand experience. At the same time, they're also responding to the problems of Kerala. So what we also need to do is there are people after a number of people who are supporting from other regions. So what the volunteers who are at the ground level should do is those volunteers who should make sure that all the efforts that are there are actually targeted towards one particular section. So there is volunteer efforts which can be better targeted if all the district authorities in Kerala put out certain adversaries on the nature of the relief that is needed and the locations and the modalities of the transfer where it is needed. So all this have to be worked about. At the same time, what we also need to understand is what is the way forward. So when we're looking into what exactly the way forward or what should be done in the future, one thing is we shouldn't be playing with the nature when there is certain encroachments, and these encroachments should not be let out. And at the same time, the deforestation should be completely stopped and afforestation should be conducted. So moving forward, the task of the reconstruction becomes the most important factor. So when we'll have to reconstruct, we will have to make sure that all the public buildings, the residential homes, the roads and other infrastructure are completed after the flood devastation has happened. And also there are certain poor pockets within the districts, and these poor pockets and these people should have been given the subsidized housing programs so that they are able to construct their houses in the worst hit areas. And what we also need to make sure is we need to preserve the remaining hills as well as the wetlands, so that these hills and wetlands can actually preserve some water, and this can act as the water storing systems. So all these hills as well as wetlands need to be protected is what this argument all about. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article says it is about the interview that has happened between Kaushik Basu as well as the interviewer, but there are two important points that we will have to understand. One is, as he explains about certain concepts, he speaks about one of the important concept of temper tantrum. So let's try and understand what exactly this whole concept of temper tantrum is. So when we look at what these two words are, the first thing that we need to understand is what exactly is taper. Taper means obviously diminishing, so it is decreasing with time, and tantrum means frustration or what you call as sudden outrage of anger. So what we will have to understand in here is, first we will understand what the concept of quantitative easing is. So one of the things that we will have to understand is that when the economy is very slow, there is not much of a development that is happening within the economy. What happens is the government actually pumps in a lot of money. So the money is actually pumped into the market. So the government realizes that there is not much of investment that is happening. People are not spending, so there is no growth factor that is happening in the economy. When all these sectors are actually considered, the government realizes that growth has to happen. So what it does is it pumps in the money into the market. So the minute it pumps in the money into the market, what people actually do is they take the money, they start investing and they start spending the money. But this is at a very shorter duration of time. But this, in case the government happens to go on and it keeps on spending the money into the market, what this can result to is inflation. So there is a point that the government stops spending that money, and when the government stops spending the money and when it slowly withdraws, taper tantrum works. Let's say the government has invested 10,000 crores. So the government has invested about 10,000 crores in the market in the year 2018. So all in all, it cannot withdraw all the money that is there within the market. So what it will gradually do is it will gradually reduce this spending or pumping of the money. Let's say in the year 2019, what it will reduce is it will reduce to 8,000 crores, and then in the year 2020 it will reduce it to 6,000 crores. So what it is doing is it is gradually reducing this money. So this type of modem is called as tapering. So what do we mean by tapering? So quantitative easing is one where we are increasing or pumping the money into the economy so that there is growth, there is investment, and people actually start spending. And when there is more that quantitative easing happening, there is inflation. So in order to reduce the inflation, what we actually as a government does it is go on reducing it. So the investments that is reduced and there is spending that is reduced so that inflation does not actually boost up. So in order to make sure that there is decrease in the investment, what the government does is it withdraws certain segments of money in the economy, and this withdrawal of money slowly and gradually is called as tapering. And what exactly happens is, in case the markets also get to know what exactly is happening, that the government is planning to withdraw from this whole process, then that particular thing is called as the taper tantrum. So what exactly is the taper tantrum? So taper is reducing the money that is there in the market. So tantrum is the sudden frustration. So people realize that the government is actually withdrawing a lot of money, and in order to make sure that this does not actually impact the economy, what we have is the taper tantrum. So taper is diminishing and tantrum is the response by the people, and that is when the government actually withdraws the money. So the government is actually very careful in actually doing all these things, simply because it can result in inflation, or even when there is sudden withdrawal of the money, that is taper tantrum that happens. What can happen is, we know for the fact that the markets are very volatile, so people can actually sense that there is something fishy, and when in the market, what can happen is the bond market will actually go in a very volatility, and when there is lot of volatility in the market, this can result in the sucking up of all the money that has been there in the FII or in the market. So the people will be very reluctant to actually invest in the market during the period of taper tantrum. So this is one thing that we have to understand from the conceptual point. Another important point is Kaushik Basu actually works in International Economic Association, so we will also have to know what exactly it is. So it is nothing but a non-governmental organization that was founded in 1950. Its aim is from the beginning has been to promote personal contacts and mutual understanding among economists in different parts of the world through the organization of scientific meetings, through common research programs, and by means of publications of an international character and problems of current importance. So what this International Economic Association does is it gets a pool of number of these people who are well established economists, and they make sure that they are under one umbrella, and in case there are any economical problems that are there in any of the developing countries, these people will look into it, and they do give about suggestions as to how these things will have to be addressed when it comes to the economics. So these are the two things that we will have to understand with respect to this article. Rest of the articles is just general. Kindly go through this article. So moving on, let's look into the prelims fact. So it says Punyam Kutti River. So what is it? It is a tributary of the mighty Periyar River. This is just from the editorial article. So kindly remember that Punyam Kutti River is a tributary of Periyar. So moving on, let's look into the awareness. So it says constitutional crisis due to Panchayat Polro on page 3. Odisha's rights panel facing a human crisis. MSME credit growth back at pre-note ban levels. RBI study on page 11. Payment operators must ensure cyber security on page 11. Kindly go through these articles. This can become a fodder for your mains answer writing. So please visit the Byju's CNA, look into the practice questions both pre as well as mains, and write all your answers on the comment section so that we can evaluate and give you the relevant feedback for the same. So this is it for today. Thank you so much. All the best.